I thought I had met an ethereal goddess, pure and untouched by the mundane world, someone I could spend my life with. I hid my family background and pretended for 3 years. Until the 3rd anniversary of our relationship, when I was joyfully preparing to reveal my true identity to her, I suddenly heard her inner thoughts. With the most contemptuous voice in her heart, she trampled my deep affection into dust. In her eyes, I was nothing more than a shabby ATM, temporarily providing her with pocket money. She was scheming to swindle away the $60,000 I had pretended to save for our wedding fund, planning to use it to subsidize her newly returned overseas white moonlight. Chapter 1. To this day, I still remember the very first moment I laid eyes on Aurora. It was at dusk 3 years ago, when a sudden storm broke out. While everyone else was scrambling and running in a panic to avoid getting wet, even shouting curses at each other on the street to grab a taxi, she alone stood quietly under the library's colonnade. She was wearing a white dress, clutching tightly in her arms a few borrowed ancient architecture books, her eyes clear and resolute. A ragged homeless man sat nearby, shivering in the cold. Unlike others who recoiled in disgust, she took out her last remaining bread from her bag, bent down, and handed it to him with both hands. At that moment, the rain stopped, and the lingering glow of the setting sun just happened to shine through the clouds onto her. She stood there, aloof and proud, like a white lotus blooming alone in the mud, untouched by even a trace of the mortal world. Me, the sole heir of a wealthy conglomerate who has seen through the hypocrisy of the glamorous world and is surrounded by countless fervent admirers, was utterly captivated. I fell in love with her aloofness and the pureness within her. To prevent my family background and status from intimidating this fragile, porcelain-like girl with her strong sense of pride, I deliberately concealed my origins. I traded my bespoke suits for cheap street stall clothes and met her by chance, pretending it was fate. I moved out of my luxury penthouse and squeezed into an old, cramped apartment with her. I even played the role of an exhausted ordinary office worker, working overtime until late every night just to earn a few thousand in performance bonuses. In this carefully crafted pure love charade, I played my part for 3 years. For 3 years, I scrimped and saved, handing over my entire salary to her as soon as I was paid each month. Every time she accepted it, she always carried an air of aloofness and helplessness, as if she were reluctantly receiving material things. She would say calmly, "Cyrus, I'll keep this money for you for now. I don't ask for much, as long as life is manageable, it's fine." I thought she was truly considerate. So, when her younger brother Leon needed startup capital, and when her father Shen Jiangwo was hospitalized and needed a hefty 200,000 yuan for surgery, I unhesitatingly gave everything I had, even staying up for days on end to run investment projects just to scrape together the money. Because I believed that a kind-hearted girl who would share her bread with a homeless person in the rain was absolutely worth my whole heart. Today marks the 3rd anniversary of our relationship. I took out a custom luxury engagement ring worth 1.2 million yuan. I'm done hiding the truth. Today, I plan to reveal my real identity and the billion-dollar family behind me, and propose to her. I want to tell her that I'm not a poor boy. For the 3 years of hardship she endured with me, I will repay her with a lifetime of wealth and luxury. But before I could even speak, the cold air from the air conditioning in the Western restaurant hit me along with her familiar, icy voice. "Cyrus, how many times have I told you, I don't like these worldly things tainted with the stench of money. Using this kind of self-righteous materialism to insult me only makes you seem shallow." In the Western restaurant, Aurora leaned back in her chair, not even glancing at the diamond ring I had carefully chosen on the table. Her voice was as cold and clear as a spring, her face carrying its usual arrogance. "Buffed, what kind of trash is this? Not even a brand name, probably some cheap rhinestone thing from a street stall for a few bucks, right? I wasted 3 years with this loser Cyrus, and I never even got a Hermes bag. If it weren't for Arthur needing a big startup fund to come back to the country, I wouldn't even bother looking at this pathetic waste for another second." A sudden, sharp female voice exploded in my mind without warning. I lifted my head abruptly. The Aurora before me still wore that aloof, otherworldly expression, her red lips not even moving. Was I hallucinating? No, I had suddenly acquired the ability to read minds. My hand holding the ring box stiffened slightly. I had always thought she was someone who truly saw money as dirt, an aloof goddess untouched by worldly vulgarity. And the Arthur she mentioned, I had occasionally heard her refer to him as her senior. Seeing that I remained silent, Aurora softened her tone and spoke in a condescending manner. Cyrus, it's not that I'm materialistic. My brother needs to buy a house soon, and he still needs 700,000. Don't you have exactly 600,000 saved up for our wedding house? Lend it to them for now. As for this ring, return it. I don't care about such formalities. But in her heart, a voice said, spit the money out, now. Arthur's waiting for me at the bar tonight. With this 600,000, he can get me into the high-end luxury circle. As for Cyrus, once I land a bigger fish, I'll kick him straight into the gutter. This time, I heard it loud and clear. The voice was exactly the same as Aurora's usual gentle and cool tone, but the greed, contempt, and calculation mixed in it disgusted me so much I almost wanted to throw up. I was so furious that I laughed instead. 3 years. A full 3 years. I scrimped and saved, sending her my entire salary as soon as I got paid each month, funding her graduate studies, supporting her man-child brother's extravagant lifestyle, and even paying the 200,000 yuan surgical fee for her father's hospitalization out of my own pocket. And what do I get? In her eyes, I'm just a mobile ATM she can kick away whenever she wants. Even the hard-earned wedding fund I pretended to save is going to be used to support her first love. To outsiders, I'm an iron-fisted leader, a decisive helmsman navigating the cutthroat seas of business. I can precisely seize every flaw of my opponents amidst the complex financial storms, and on the treacherous negotiation table, I can see through the schemes of those old foxes who have been steeped in business for decades at a single glance. But on Aurora, this ship I believed to be pure love, I capsized completely. Why? Because in the business world, I use my brain and guard against interests, but when facing Aurora, I let down all my defenses, my mind filled only with redemption and pure love. When people desperately yearn for something, their intelligence often takes a back seat. I grew up in a cold, profit-driven aristocratic family, surrounded by women whose eyes were filled with calculation whenever they looked at me. Their desires were written all over their faces, meticulously polished but monotonously alike, evoking a visceral disgust in me. I longed so desperately for a pure relationship, one untouched by any self-interest and untainted by my status. So much so that over the past 3 years, every flaw she revealed was automatically rationalized by the filter of my own love-blindness. Cyrus, what are you smiling at? Are you even listening to me? Seeing that I hadn't responded for a long time, Aurora's frown deepened, and a hint of impatience crept into her tone. It's nothing. I slowly withdrew my hand, putting the custom luxury diamond ring worth 1.2 million back into my pocket, a cold smirk curling at the corner of my mouth. I just think you're right. Since you feel these things insult you, then from now on, I won't insult you anymore. Aurora froze, clearly not expecting me, who had always been submissive, to speak to her like that. Did this loser take the wrong meds? How dare he talk to me like that? Humph, playing hard to get, is he? Just wait, I'll give you the cold shoulder and make you beg for my forgiveness on your knees. Suppressing her irritation, Aurora extended her fair hand as if it were only natural. I'm glad you understand. Well then, give me that 600,000 bank card. I'll drop by and use it on my way. She argued with righteous indignation. I stood up straight away and waved over the waiter. Sir, how may I help you? I pointed to the glass of lemon water in front of me. Check, please. Also, split the bill for our table, separate checks. I'll only pay for this glass of water. As for the rest, this noble, otherworldly lady will cover it. Aurora shot to her feet, her aloof persona instantly shattered. Cyrus. Are you crazy? You're making me pay the bill. For this meal, she ordered Kobe beef and top-grade red wine, costing over 3,000 in total. In the past, wasn't I always the one rushing to pay? I looked down at her from a height, no trace of my former tenderness left in my eyes, only endless mockery. Miss Aurora, aren't you the one who sees money as dirt? Since money reeks of copper, then you should get plenty on yourself. Don't dirty my hands. Goodbye, oh no, never see you again. I pulled out my phone and, right in front of Aurora, decisively blocked her number and all other contact methods. Chapter 2. Back at my luxury penthouse, I took a shower and felt utterly relieved. Stripping off the cheap bargain bin clothes I had worn to match Aurora's style and changing into a bespoke robe, I dialed my assistant's number. "Sir, you've finally resumed normal contact." The assistant's voice trembled with excitement. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, overlooking the city's nightscape, and gave orders in a cold tone. "Help me look into a few things. First, stop all payments for Aurora's school expenses. Second, notify the hospital that I will no longer cover the VIP care costs for Aurora's father. Third, all the high-end bags and jewelry I gave Aurora have purchase records and invoices. Contact the lawyer and reclaim everything under the grounds of revocation of substantial gifts during a romantic relationship." The assistant replied, "Understood, sir. I'll get on it right away." I knew that Aurora must have been utterly humiliated in the restaurant. The cash she had on hand wasn't enough to cover the $3,000+ meal bill, and in the end, she had no choice but to max out her credit card and flee back to her apartment in disgrace. Sure enough, my phone started popping up missed call notifications like crazy. But unfortunately, all she could hear was the cold, indifferent beeping tone. At this moment, Aurora was probably in her apartment, hysterically pounding her pillow. "Cyrus, you bastard. Tomorrow, you'd better beg me on your knees, or I swear I'll never forgive you. Without me, a bottom feeder like you will never find a wife in your entire life." She was still lost in her fantasy. However, before she could even figure out how to punish me tomorrow, the cut-off notices from the school and the hospital would strike her like two bolts of lightning. Noble. Arrogant. When she realized that her so-called high-quality life was entirely propped up by me, her simp, all that was left was panic. Not to mention her younger brother Leon, a gambling addict who acts like a grown-up baby, who is currently being hounded by debtors after losing 100,000 yuan in an underground casino. On the phone, Leon sent me a threatening voice message last night: "If you don't pay up, I'll come find you at your company, and I'll kill you." I looked at that voice message, sneered, and saved the evidence. "Aurora, you want to make trouble, don't you? Tomorrow, I'll prepare a big surprise for you." Chapter 3. The next morning, in the first-floor lobby of the group's building. As soon as I stepped out of the private elevator, I saw Aurora wearing a plain white long dress, with a pale and pitifully sickly makeup look, like a wronged and abandoned lover. Meanwhile, Leon stood with his arms crossed, shouting loudly at the front desk like a thug. "Where's Cyrus? Tell Cyrus to get the hell out here. That heartless bastard who seduced and abandoned my sister. He played her for 3 years, and now that she's pregnant, he wants to just walk away. Let your boss come out and judge this." The surrounding white-collar workers and clients looking for investments turned their heads, whispering and pointing. Aurora shed 2 perfect lines of crystal tears, leaning weakly against the front desk. "Miss, I just want to see him and clear up the misunderstanding. My baby can't grow up without a father. Humph, this trick never fails. Employees at big companies care most about their reputation, Cyrus. If you don't want to lose your job, just hand over that 600,000 along with the company's compensation money." Hearing her thoughts, a cruel smile curled at the corner of my lips. Beside me, the property manager and the company's vice president were bent over, groveling as they reported to me, "The investment proposal for next quarter has been sent to your email." Aurora turned her head sharply to see me, then saw the crowd behind me and the respect everyone showed me. She froze completely on the spot. How is that possible? Isn't Cyrus just a low-level employee earning 10,000 a month? Isn't this building a top-tier venture capital center? Why are they reporting to him? Leon, clueless and oblivious to the tense atmosphere, pointed at my nose and cursed, "Cyrus. Well, you scumbag. Just changed your clothes and now you don't recognize anyone. Get on your knees and apologize to my sister right now, and take out $1 million, or I'll smash up your company today." I paused mid-step, my gaze lightly sweeping over the brother and sister, who looked like a pair of clowns. I didn't even spare an extra glance at Aurora. I simply spoke coldly to the head of security behind me: "These two are guilty of extortion. involving a huge amount of money. Additionally, the man is suspected of creating a disturbance, and the woman is illegally spreading rumors and slandering others. Call the police. I casually handed the voice recording evidence from Leon's threats last night to the head of security. Cyrus, are you serious? I'm your brother. Leon was completely panicked. You think you're worthy? I sneered. In less than 10 minutes, sirens blared. In full view of everyone, Leon was handcuffed with his hands behind his back and taken into the police car. Aurora's face turned deathly pale as she collapsed to the ground, trying to use her pregnancy to evade guilt. Officer, I'm carrying his child. I'm pregnant. I walked up to her, crouched down, and sneered in a voice only we could hear, pregnant. Aurora, we've been together for 3 years and barely even held hands a few times. Whose child are you carrying? Arthur's. Aurora looked as if struck by lightning, slumping weakly to the ground. How does he know? How could he possibly know about what happened between Arthur and me, at the hotel last week? No, this can't be. I straightened up and looked down at her from above. Also, your beloved white moonlight Arthur was sued for fraud this morning by an investment company under my name. He owes $3 million in high-interest loans, and I heard the creditors are scouring the streets looking for him. Guess what, will he sell you off to a low-end club to pay off his debts? Leaving this behind, I didn't even cast another glance at her. Surrounded by a crowd of security guards and executives, I walked straight to the Rolls-Royce at the entrance, leaving Aurora alone under the scorching sun, completely plunged into the abyss of despair. Chapter 4. After leaving the corporate headquarters, Aurora had nowhere else to go. Her so-called home, once she stopped providing financial support, had long become a cold, bottomless pit. She called Arthur countless times and finally found him in a rundown apartment on the outskirts of the city. However, the moment she pushed open the door, the senior she had always imagined, forever in a white shirt and smelling of grass, was utterly shattered. The room was thick with the cheap smell of cigarette smoke and the rotting stench of takeout. Arthur's eyes were bloodshot, his hair disheveled, and he was frantically pounding on the keyboard in front of the computer. With reddened eyes, like a frightened rabbit, Aurora rushed over. Senior Arthur. Cyrus is insane. He called the police and had my brother arrested, froze my credit cards and my apartment. He even said you committed fraud, that you owe $3 million in loan shark debt. It's all lies, isn't it? Arthur whipped his head around. His once handsome face was now twisted into a menacing grimace. He grabbed Aurora's wrist with terrifying force. What did you say? Cyrus froze all your cards? Then what about the $600,000 I needed? Did you get it or not? Aurora was startled by his force and shook her head desperately. No, he blocked me. Arthur, he knows about us going to the hotel last week. How could he know? Damn. That rotten bitch can't even keep a simp on a leash. Without that $600,000 as interest, Brother Long is going to chop off one of my fingers tonight. Arthur's inner voice struck Aurora's mind like a thunderbolt. She was completely stunned. You really owe money to loan sharks? Weren't you an elite returning home to start a business? Aurora asked, her voice trembling. Seeing that the jig was up, Arthur didn't even bother pretending anymore. He shoved Aurora aside with a cold sneer, elite. If making money back home was that easy, why would I have failed overseas? Aurora, do you really think you're some untouchable flower? If it weren't for Cyrus playing the fool and throwing money at you, do you think I'd bother pandering to you? You lied to me. Aurora burst into tears. She never dreamed that she had turned down Cyrus for so-called true love and class mobility, only to find out that this true love had been after Cyrus's dirty money all along. Just then, the battered security door was kicked open with a violent bang. Several burly men with crew cuts and tattoos of dragons and phoenixes etched across their bodies swaggered in, their faces covered in muscle. Leading them was the loan shark boss, Brother Long. Arthur, the day's here. $3 million, principal and interest. If you can't come up with the money today, today will be your last day alive, Brother Long sneered, casually playing with a sharp machete in his hand. Arthur fell to his knees with a thud, frantically kowtowing, Brother Long. Brother Long, please spare me. I really have no money left. It was all shorted by Cyrus over at Venture Capital Group. Suddenly, Arthur's gaze landed on Aurora, who was slumped on the ground. As if grasping at his last lifeline, he scrambled over on all fours, grabbed Aurora by the hair, and dragged her to Brother Long's feet. Brother Long. Look at her. She's a top student from the art department, known for being the pure goddess. She's spotless. I'm offering her as collateral. Take her to a high-end club, she's sure to make you a fortune. Please, just give me another week, just 1 week. Aurora stared in horror, her eyes wide, at the frantic men before her. Aurora, don't blame me. Aren't you the one who loves to act all aloof and noble? Going to the club to entertain those big bosses, satisfying your vanity, that's a fitting end for you. Arthur. You're not human. Let me go. Cyrus. Cyrus, save me. At that moment, Aurora finally broke down and screamed. Her mind was filled with memories of how I had once taken care of her in every way. The ginger tea I delivered across half the city on rainy days, the sleepless nights I spent with her during her period, and that $1 million diamond ring she discarded like trash. If she hadn't been so greedy, if she hadn't betrayed me, she would already be an enviable rich wife. Cyrus. Ha. Brother Long kicked Arthur aside, crouched down to lift Aurora's chin, and spat. That Cyrus you're talking about is the host of tonight's top charity gala in the city, the sole heir to $1 trillion fortune. Who the hell do you think you are to utter his name? Take them away. Amid Aurora's desperate, regretful, and piercing screams, she and Arthur were dragged downstairs like dead dogs by the burly men. Chapter 5. At 8 that evening, the Hilton's top banquet hall in City A was a dazzling display of lights and luxury cars. Everyone who gained entry was either a tycoon worth tens of billions in River City or a renowned figure in politics and business. Dressed in a custom-made black tailcoat, holding a glass of champagne, I stood on the VIP observation deck on the second floor, watching the crowd below with an indifferent expression. The assistant stood respectfully behind me, reporting, "Sir, the matters concerning Aurora and Arthur have been settled. Arthur has been placed on file by the police for suspected massive financial fraud and illegal fundraising." Brother Long's men conveniently broke both his hands before sending him to the police station. As for Aurora, to repay her brother's debts, she voluntarily signed a labor contract with a high-end club. However, due to multiple cases of reputation infringement and civil fraud, the civil lawsuits filed by our legal team have also been served. I took a sip of my drink, feeling no ripple of emotion. The past 3 years felt like an absurd, surreal dream. Once the truth was clear, the so-called untouchable flower turned out to be nothing more than a plastic fake covered in mud, unworthy of a second glance. Cyrus, hiding up here slacking off again. A crisp, melodious voice, utterly pure and free of impurities, came from behind. I turned around to see Belle, dressed in a custom starry night gown, lifting her hem as she gracefully walked toward me. The cherished daughter of the Sioux Corporation conglomerate, also my childhood friend and a true heiress from a well-matched prestigious family. Cyrus looked so handsome today. Woo, I heard he finally kicked that vampire, green tea bitch to the curb. Great. After waiting all these years, I finally have a chance. But I need to be reserved and not show it too obviously. Hearing Belle's playful, adorable inner thoughts, overflowing with pure reliance and heartfelt affection, my gaze involuntarily softened. Not slacking off, just waiting for my date, I said with a smile, reaching out my hand to her. A faint blush crept onto Belle's pretty face, but her eyes sparkled with joy that she couldn't hide as she gently placed her hand in mine. Just as we were walking down to the hall together, ready to step into the spotlight, a sudden commotion erupted at the entrance of the banquet hall. "Let me in. I'm Cyrus's fiancée. How dare you stop me?" Disheveled and haggard, Aurora had somehow managed to slip away from her guards and desperately broke through the security line. One of her high heels had fallen off, and the white dress she wore was covered in black stains, making her look like a beggar. When she saw me walking down the red carpet holding the distinguished and elegant Belle, jealousy and regret burned fiercely in Aurora's eyes. "Cyrus. I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Aurora fell to her knees with a thud at the end of the red carpet, crying loudly without any regard for her image. It was Arthur who tricked me. It was Leon who forced me. The one I've always loved is you. Look at me, please give me one more chance. I don't want money, I don't want anything, I just want you. Then her inner thoughts rang out, as long as Cyrus comes back to me, I'll be a billionaire's trophy wife. What's Belle compared to me? I'm the woman who's been with him for 3 years. He loves me so much, he'll definitely soften. The entire venue fell into dead silence. All the flashes and gazes instantly focused on me and this crazy woman. Belle furrowed her delicate brows slightly and was about to step forward, but I gently held her hand, signaling her to stay calm. I walked up to Aurora without even bending down. My gaze, looking down from above, was like staring at a pile of stinking garbage on the roadside. Aurora, I told you, don't use your filthy mind to insult the word love. I couldn't even be bothered to call security myself. I simply turned to the venue's property manager and said, in a calm voice, yet with an undeniable authority. Since when did the security at the Hilton in City A become so poor that anything dirty can just wander in? Also, spread the word, across all my properties in the entire city, this woman is indefinitely blacklisted. Doesn't she claim to regard money as dirt? Then let her enjoy a noble life free from the stench of wealth, down at the very bottom of society. No. Cyrus. You can't do this to me. Aurora let out a desperate, shrill scream. Mobbed by a swarm of black-clad security guards who clamped his mouth shut, he was dragged out like a dead dog, completely expelled from this world of light under the contemptuous and disgusted gazes of countless high society figures. 3 years of long dreams, now ended. I turned around, took Belle's hand, and amidst the blinding flashes and applause, walked toward my own dazzling new beginning. After the party ended, I sat in the car, leaning against the genuine leather seat of the Rolls-Royce, and closed my eyes. In my mind, the final crisp chime of the mind-reading system notification, which had accompanied me all day, suddenly sounded. Ding! Detected that the green tea female lead Aurora's fortune has completely collapsed. The host has perfectly turned the tables. The mind-reading function will be permanently disabled in 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8. Listening to the countdown in my head, I curled my lips in self-mockery. This special ability that finally woke me from my foolish, deep infatuation was about to leave. If it weren't for hearing those inner thoughts, tonight at this citywide charity gala, under the watchful eyes of countless elders and the media, I might have truly been foolish enough to take her hand with full joy and announce to the world that she was about to become my wife. Perhaps, one day in the future, I will be devoured and betrayed by her and her first love, becoming the laughingstock of the entire upper class.